Come on into the ditch. I'm your resident ditch witch, Tara Tyne, and we're about to get witchy, whether you like it or not. So I'm taking a little break from property this week. It's realistically going to be something I do every second or third week, because it takes me about a week to decide, plan, and then execute what I'm doing, plus editing time, and another week to find the funny side to it all, so that it's not just 10 to 15 minutes of me crying in existential crisis once a fortnight. And to be honest, I have no plans for December. I have ideas alright, but actually I'll be as surprised as you are to see what I actually managed to produce between now and the end of the month. But today we're doing a wee bit of folklore and festive food inspired by what has become a firm Christmas tradition in my house. I'll put a timestamp in the description for those of you who are here for the prep tips and do not have time for me prattling on about why pheasants are one of my absolute favourite seasonal foods from the ditch. The rest of us, meanwhile, can afford a wee moment to enjoy the festive vibes in the studio. I thought if I started off small in here, the Christmas cheer might just somehow magically spread to the rest of the house without me actually having to do anything. I'll let you know how that goes. And I don't know about you, but you know, despite being a bit low on energy and a bit all over the place, I am so ready for festive content. I've been trying to find like festive podcasts and YouTube videos to listen to in my wind down hour, and just the other day I actually listened to the entire audiobook of Dickens's Christmas Carol on YouTube. Mwah. And I thought it might be a nice way to kick off the season by taking myself off out for a wee wintry walk and bringing you along and sharing this fairly typical Christmas activity from my ditch to yours. I had planned to shoot as far as this in the video and then cut to me in beautiful countryside scenes. But what happens when I rely on shooting outdoors in Ireland? Hailstones. The most accurate weather app that I know of tells me that I'm imagining it. Big old hailstones bouncing off me windowsill. Fictional, apparently. So we're doing it indoors, which is also fine because I have tea. So yeah, this week it's all about the pleasantness of pheasant. I did a wee bit of research for this video and found out that pheasants are not actually a native Irish bird. No. They originally hail from Asia and are thought to have been brought to Ireland by Normans around the 16th century in order to decorate their estate grounds and provide them with feasts. Of course, poaching was strictly forbidden for us poor paupers. At least it definitely was 3 centuries later during famine times when you get your Christmas pheasant and your Christmas peasant mixed up. When a pheasant would have gone a long way to saving a poacher's family from starvation if he was able to lure it in with a piece of potato. Not easy when there's potato blight, I'll give you that. But a Dukas article from the 1930s tells us that raisins were also used to trap pheasants and sulphur, depending on what you had access to. Dukas also tells us that young boys were told to stay away from pheasant eggs or else they'd end up with sore hands. But now that I think about it, I'm not sure if that's folklore or just like threatening their knuckles with the ruler, actually. You see, in wintertime, pheasants roost in the trees and are eminently easier to get access to, apparently. Of course, these days, if you end up with a pheasant on your hands, you've either hit it with your car or it's been shot by some friend of a friend of a friend who has killed more than they're going to be able to eat themselves. And because we've gotten very used to convenience when it comes to our meat, an awful lot of people wouldn't have the first clue what to do with a bird that hadn't been pre-prepared. I can't talk. I actually can't say that without like a good run and jump to it. With a bird that hadn't been pre-prepared by a butcher, which included me until probably 10 years ago-ish. The combination of wanting to be more adventurous with my food living on a tight budget, and believing that humans should have more connection to and conviction about the meat they consume, all conspired to turn me into a flexitarian. I'll pretty much eat whatever's available, within reason, of course. I've also had notions of wanting to only eat meat I could catch myself, but that's proved easier said than done when I've been living principally in urban environments. But almost every year, usually between the start of November and kind of Christmas time, there'll be a knock at my door when I least expect it, and I'll be handed a plastic bag, and somehow I'm always surprised to find that it contains a pheasant or two. I don't condone shooting animals for sport, especially if you don't intend to eat them. But my stoic inner flexitarian is also kind of glad that they're at least not going to waste when they come to my house. And my lovely vegan viewers might want to check out now. It's about to get a little bit murdery. So yeah, pheasant at the door has actually become one of the signs that Christmas in the ditch has begun. Shooting season begins on the 1st of November in the Republic of Ireland and the 1st of October in the north of Ireland, and continues until the 31st of January. The north doesn't allow for shooting during hours of darkness, on Sundays, or on Christmas Day. The Republic doesn't allow the shooting of hen pheasants at any time. One thing you want to check before you accept the gift of pheasant is how long it has been hung and where. You don't want to make that mistake twice. Ideally, a bird should be hung for no more than a day or two to allow rigor mortis to come and go. There really are not enough festive videos with the phrase rigor mortis in them. If hung outside in cold weather for up to 6 days, the flavour of the meat can deepen, but you're also running the risk of it turning slimy and green if there's been extensive damage to the bird during the shooting or retrieval stages, or if the weather or the hanging room isn't cold enough. A better way to achieve this, according to Shooting UK, is to prepare the carcass first, i.e. get rid of the guts and feathers, then keep it in the fridge under a dry tea towel until you're ready to use it. So let's say you've got your pheasant, you've done the checks I mentioned, you're ready to rock. Then what? Well, at this point we need to take a jump over to Dave's kitchen, where he kindly demonstrated the process of preparing this tasty bird. Last year he hadn't a clue how to skin a pheasant, like literally took the bag and stood in the box room for 10 minutes hiding and hoping that the pheasant might tell him what to do. This year he's doing it like a pro, well, nearly. So don't be put off, anyone can learn, and that way there's a silver lining if your lovely peaceful Sunday drive accidentally turns into a roadkill murder spree. So Dave's using a slightly different method here than I do myself, but he talked me through what he did and it worked really well for him. I like to use as much of the bird as I can. I keep and cure the wings and feathers for fashion, crafting and magical purposes. Usually I'd remove the tail feathers first, but we forgot to do it this time and it was definitely trickier to do it afterwards. The first thing you'll want to do with your bird is remove the wings, feet and head. For the wings, find the armpit and slice the skin there. Then cut through the bone with shears or a knife. Next, remove the legs just above the knee joint with shears, or in this case, a cleaver. The head is removed in a similar way, and if you don't have a cleaver, cutting the skin around the neck with a knife first might make this a wee bit easier. Then move to the underbelly of the bird between the hypothetical belly button and the special place and make a slit in the skin, then peel the skin up the breast to reveal the meat. At this point, as my Uncle Patsy says, it's like taking his jacket off, except I think it's more like a play suit. Just me? No? Pheasants are truly beautiful birds. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't still all soppy and sad about them being hunted for sport as much as sustenance, but I also identify with the hungry poacher who's glad of this delicious treat during the poor winter months. And if the capitalist West ever falls, I'll be the one dancing about in the feathered cloak. Usually I cook these within a day or two of receiving them, but it was a little bit late in the evening when we received these, and I'm even less prepared than usual, so we've decided to try something new and freeze them. The internet tells us that freezing them in water helps preserve the taste and texture better, so Dave is starting by removing the legs. He's then making a slit just below the belly to make it easier to get at the guts. Be careful to reach around the guts when going in and grabbing. Try and get it all out in one intact handful. At this point you could just whack the meat and carcass into a stew pot if you wanted, or save the meat and make stock with the bones. Either way, give them a wash to get off any leftover feathery bits. Since we're hoping to get 2 future meals out of them, we're freezing them in 2 batches. As for pheasant recipes, you'll have to stay tuned. I have one that I'd like to share with you this festive season if I get the chance. We got a brace this year, so we're going to possibly stuff and roast one for Christmas dinner. And the other one I intend to use for a Thai-inspired stew I concocted myself a few years back. It has a really complex flavor. It's a really complex flavor. I need you to break into a bank for me. Great favour though, thanks. It has a really complex flavour and is a lovely complement to the sort of gamey tones of the pheasant. But I also want to hear about your favourite ways that you've ever eaten pheasant. Tell me all about it in the comments, or if you've fashioned an elaborate headdress from the tail feathers of the pheasant and the skulls of your enemies. I obviously want to know about that too. Link me! And hit subscribe for more fun and witchy adventures. I upload every Thursday and you're not going to want to miss it. Slán agus beannacht, goodbye and good luck to you.